Welcome to Hostel Discourse, episode 24, recording. Woohoo!
Jared, how bad would it be if you go into a job interview and the first thing they do is just pull out a screenshot of what Joe had?
Joe, I would...
No, but they just ask, I want you to explain what this means.
I would make you pay me reparations, Joe. And I would calculate it by the income lost from not getting that job. And I think that job was probably a good one, so I'm going to put it around $200,000.
All right, but what if
Jared, hey,
what if it gets
Jared, just charge him with attempted murder.
That's true. That's true.
All bets are off.
That's true.
So, should I start recording on my end?
If it gets you the job,
no, not yet. Okay, cool. Are we going to sync up?
Yep.
All right, cool. We got to have like a countdown and then say super friends or go when we all sync.
All right, I'll run through the reminders just to make sure we don't have any mess ups. All right. Remind me when we're done to take a screenshot of everyone, or I could just do that right now. Here, Jacob, let me take your screenshot. All right, Tim, your turn. Okay, Joe, screenshot.
Take it now. Take it now.
Oh.
Did you get it while he's looking away?
Okay. Jared, screenshot. Cool.
Couldn't find any superhero memorabilia.
All right.
I got my Hostel Discourse shirt on.
This jersey sure came through for me.
What's the?
Ooh, what if I had one where I was like pulling it? Ooh, that'd be tight.
Those of you that are recording using your phone, make sure it has battery, and make sure there's like at least half a gig of storage available.
Ooh, I should be good, but let me check.
Yeah. And then
watch the shadow of Joe undressing. Oh my god.
Hell yeah. There's just this like massive.
Oh my god, it's like a movie.
Where,
like a PG-13 movie.
I've been really trying. Dude, Jacob, one of my favorite memories of you is you being like, all right, Tim, sing the first line of that song, and I had no idea.
Really?
You remember doing that?
No, I don't.
What?
Joe,
that's like a few
is
different
that collar gonna mess up your mic?
Oh, I'm gonna take it off. I just want you to take this picture.
What?
Oh, okay.
It's like Superman.
Your face isn't in it. Whatever, that's fine.
Joe,
What?
Nothing, Joe.
You got something to say?
You big goof.
Boy?
You huge goofball.
All right. Everybody start your recordings.
Hold
I guess
on.
wait for Jacob.
All right. Should we start now, David, or?
Just wait for Jacob to sit
Hey,
down.
how do I turn this metronome off?
Click the metronome icon on the top right.
The metronome turns you off.
Find it.
What's it look like?
It looks like a metronome.
Oh, very top right. I see it.
Yeah.
Hey, metronome, I told you to turn off.
Hey guys, I'm gonna get my phone charger just in case. I'll be back.
It's not voice activated, Jared.
Okay, it turned off.
Dang, Jared.
What?
You should put the mic like close to you if you can.
This is how's this look? You can't see it, but like it's probably 6 inches from my mouth.
Can you move it closer to where you're going to be facing though?
Oh yeah.
Also,
sure.
you don't talk into the top of it. You talk into the side.
I was 6 inches
it needs to be
inside
pointing
your
up then?
mom's mouth.
Yeah.
Okay, with like the red light pointing towards me.
Yeah. And is the red light flashing or is it solid?
It's solid.
Okay, good. Flashing means you're on mute.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting.
All right. Here's
Most interesting.
kind of interesting and also a little bit scary. Go to the attempted murder Wikipedia page. There are 3 subsections: Canada, United Kingdom, and United States. That's it. I guess we're the only ones. I thought that was kind of funny, but
Canadians don't murder.
Ooh.
Tim, you ready?
Oh.
Man, they messed up the RUF Christmas song so bad tonight, in my
It
opinion.
sounded awful.
really,
Did you go, David?
I didn't think it sounded that different from
No,
when we did it.
In TK's Snapchat.
Oh. I wasn't
You
listening.
surely had a piano, Jacob.
Oh, well, yeah, because I played it.
Yeah, okay.
Claimed it.
That is already a huge step up.
Tim,
What else do they play?
I don't get it.
Okay.
I am looking at you guys right now because I got you on my TV. So this way, whenever I'm looking stuff up on the internet, you won't
Tim, you
know.
ready?
Yes, let me get my recording out.
All right, everyone hit record. Test. Welcome to
Check,
Hostel
check.
Discourse.
Check. My name is
Yeah.
Jacob Hunter.
It's
I'm
your
black.
boy.
What's up, YouTube?
Hey
It's your
guys.
boy.
Hey, you YouTubers.
Hey guys, coming at you with another Minecraft Let's Play video. It's got a new texture pack, and it makes everyone in their underwear.
Oh! Don't tell your mom
All right,
about this
let's
one.
clap. Let's clap. All right.
Let us clap.
3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Cool.
La 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 la.
All right. I will get started. Make sure the volume in your ear of hearing my voice right now isn't too loud that your other mic could pick it up. Just have it loud enough so you can understand me, okay?
Okay.
Okay, I will get started. We're going to do Justice League, spoiler-free, high-level talk, then spoilers, then debate 1, which is which superhero most deserves their own feature film, and then debate 2, what's the best superhero movie of all time? And who's judging debate 1?
The kid.
Okay. And then Jacob, the second one, right?
Yes, also the kid,
All right.
The other kid.
the older kid.
All right,
Middle
I'll
J
start.
and little J.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Hostel Discourse. Tonight on episode 24, we have an exciting episode.
Oh, you
episode
almost had it too. You
20
almost had it.
Tim, are you for sure recording right now?
Yeah, I'm recording.
Sweet. Just
Yeah, Jared, are you for sure recording?
Test, checking, double checking, triple checking. We're good.
Test.
Okay, good. We had a almost fatal mistake last week.
I also have no backup this time. Oh, wait, we still have the Google, whatever. All right,
David's
we're good.
understanding of death is just so misguided.
It's because I almost killed Jared.
Okay, that's fair.
Been dead.
Wait, whoa, what was that all about?
That's true.
Jared just didn't record.
Oh, okay.
Idiot.
I'll restart. Hey everyone, welcome back to Hostel Discourse. We have an exciting episode planned. For episode 24, we will be discussing Justice League, the movie, live action, as well as debating 2 superhero debates. Which superhero most deserves their own feature film, and what's the best superhero movie of all time? So we are excited about superheroes. The new Avengers trailer came out today. Justice League came out a couple weeks ago. And
Me, hi, me, noi.
If you would like, check the show notes and you can skip around. If you haven't seen Justice League yet, we will go over a spoiler-free high-level review, but you can skip around using those time codes. And before we get started, let me introduce you to tonight's podcast crew. First, back from several episodes ago, one of our fan favorites, Tim Witham.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Woohoo!
Doing well, Tim. How are you?
So great.
Pretty okay, I guess.
And back again, the usuals, Jacob Hunter in Tulsa.
Hello again, loyal listeners.
Jared Cozart also in Tulsa.
Hey, gang.
Not just Tulsa, though. The Hostel. And last but not least, Joe Kuiper from Oklahoma City.
Hello. It should
Hello.
be noted that Tim is hailing from Pennsylvania right now also.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
gonna
yes,
bring
I
in that
forgot.
East Coast crowd for sure.
Expand our audience.
Wow. Hey, Tim, what kind of East Coast, what kind of big city ways have you picked up over there?
Oh, really? Just Pittsburgh, but that's about it.
Oh.
You are from Pittsburgh? Great
No.
city. I like it.
Are you like do you like say any weird words now, or do you have an accent or something? Or
That's a big city way.
You know, I like to think I don't, but I think the ultimate judge of that would be you guys, right?
you sound normal.
You sound
Okay,
like
that's good.
normal.
I still say y'all, so they're never taking that away from me.
You sound like a Yankee.
Ooh, I hope not.
a yank.
All right, let's get into our Justice League review. It is a 2017 Warner Bros. Pictures production based on the DC Comics superhero team that had a great cartoon show, as I'm sure many of you watched growing up. It's the fifth installment in the DC Extended Universe. It was partially directed by Zack Snyder. His daughter actually committed suicide when they were filming, and so it was picked up by Joss Whedon as the second director. So that might kind of, I don't know if you knew that, but some of the disjointedness makes a little bit of sense when you realize how many pickups and reshoots they had to do with a different director. So some of the cast members were Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller, Jason Momoa, and Ray Fisher. And basically the story was the Justice League teamed up to take down a pretty generic villain, Steppenwolf, and his army of parademons. So I'd love to hear, what were your guys' expectations going into the movie, and how did it meet them or fall short of them?
Well, coming off of Batman vs Superman, I had very low expectations, and it's hard to make a good. Superman has never had a really good movie, and Batman vs Superman was bad. This greatly exceeded my expectations. I liked it a lot, and that's it.
Hey, I'm gonna ask because I have not seen the movie in theaters. What was there a post-credit stinger or anything like that?
Yeah, there are two actually.
Well, we can get into that in spoiler talk
Oh, for
towards
sure.
the end.
Yeah.
Wait,
Let's
Tim,
stay with.
you've seen the movie?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay.
But I read a
Yeah,
spoiler.
Tim
free
gave me
review.
his permission
And
to
some other stuff.
spoil the whole movie because he says he looks up everything anyways. So
Okay.
Tim has not seen it, but he's a big enough superhero fan. We had to get him on the show anyways.
I didn't really have many expectations at all. Like committed to being, I was not committed to being optimistic or pessimistic going into it, and my overall impression was just that it was kind of bland, and there was not there wasn't a moment in the movie that I was really impressed or thought it was going to be really memorable a year from now or even 6 months from now. And so for that reason, I give this movie a thumbs down.
Oh. For me, kind of like what Jared was saying, except coming off of Wonder Woman rather than Batman vs Superman, which Wonder Woman was good, so I guess I had high hopes rather than low hopes. So I would consider myself slightly disappointed, but I still enjoyed the movie a lot.
I think everyone is, y'all have both started your explanations with coming off of blank, and it's a pretty genius formula they have where they can just make trash movies that are going to crush at the box office and then make a mediocre movie and then say, well, coming off of Batman vs Superman, I like this movie a lot.
I said the opposite.
Oh, I thought you said you liked it.
I did like it. I just said it was slightly disappointing compared to Wonder Woman.
Oh, okay. Well, cut all this, David.
Well, my expectations were definitely low. Coming off of Wonder Woman, I liked it, but DC's track record has not been good over the past few years with Suicide Squad. I actually kind of enjoyed Batman vs Superman, but overall I know it's a pretty bad story. So Justice League, I grew up with the cartoon, so I was excited. I've always wanted a Justice League movie. I was hoping DC would deliver on the epicness of the TV show. So my expectations were not, kind of like you guys said, not negative or positive, but I think it exceeded my expectations. I think it was a good movie, not a great movie. I agree that it's not very, that a lot of it isn't memorable. Like I won't be able to tell you what happened in a year, but there were some memorable scenes. It wasn't all just trash or anything. And I mean, as I mentioned, the pacing in the movie is a little disjointed. They had two different directors, but I guess that's not an excuse because a lot of big budget Hollywood movies these days have reshoots like Rogue One after they're done with the normal shoots. But yeah, overall, I'm going to watch it again, not right away, in a little while, but I liked it, but definitely didn't live up to the Justice League cartoon from when I was a kid.
How do you guys think this movie would have gone if it had come out before the Avengers?
Ooh, so actually I want to add a point to this. I was just looking at the first weekend box office gross for both movies, and the Avengers in the first weekend did 207 million about, and Justice League only did 93.8 million. So roughly it did half as well as the Avengers did. So Joe raises a really good point, and I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about that.
It would have done better if it came out first.
It would have done better if it came out before every other DC movie from the past 5 years. The Superman movies haven't been very good. Suicide Squad was terrible, and Batman vs Superman was, most people hated it. I thought it was all right. So I think that Justice League has been better than average for DC, but since it's followed those movies, the expectations are just too low for it to do anywhere near as good as the Avengers did when it first came out.
Hey, Big D, here's my question about the directors. Did one take over? Did the second one take over and do like the second half of the movie or something? Or did they kind of reshoot everything? Like, is there a distinct point in the movie where it kind of switches directors?
No, I mean, they don't film movies, like with the timeline of the story. So scenes are shot out of line. So he came in not exactly halfway through shooting. I think it was towards the end or maybe 70% in or something like that. So he had the latter half of normal shoots and then all the reshoots. But Zack Snyder had the majority of it. And I think a lot of Josh Whedon's touches are kind of in the more comedic moments, and I think they're the parts to the movie that are actually good compared to what DC's been doing with everything being dark and just not that fun. But I think a lot of Joss Whedon's touches were with kind of the Batman and Flash relationship and a lot of the more quippy one-liners and stuff like that. So I think that he definitely added to the movie beneficially. And I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Zack Snyder, so I kind of wish he would have had the whole movie and not just the reshoots.
Well, I'll come in with maybe a hot take here for the listener who wants to know if they should see this movie. Think about the movie The Avengers. I like Justice League better. I think you should see it.
Whoa. Hot take.
I think it's been a long time since you watched The Avengers.
The hottest.
I mean, personally, the Avengers movies are just as forgetful as Justice League was. Like, they're good, they're fun, but I can't tell you a scene from the Avengers 1.
I highly doubt
Come
that.
on.
Oh, you can.
Yeah, Hulk throwing around Loki in that last fight.
That's a funny
was
scene.
amazing.
The entire Chitauri battle in New York City is one of the best.
Yeah, when Hulk punches down that entire flying worm.
Yeah, dude. I'm always angry.
Oh, yeah.
Classic.
Yeah. Quite.
All right, let's get into some spoiler talk
Yes,
so we can talk about some details
Let's go.
from Justice League. Were there any favorite scenes that you want to mention?
Well, I don't know about favorite scenes. Here's my takeaway from this movie was I think it's so hard to have a good Superman movie because they just made him like they portrayed him in the movie. So I have a couple points to make here, I guess. The first one, I'll start with, I think they did Superman so right. Finally a movie where Superman lives up to his potential. He's just unstoppable. He's so unstoppable. And I love that. But it makes for like Superman movies aren't very good because if he's that powerful, that's just like not a very fun movie to watch if he's just beating people up all the time. So what I liked the most about this movie is how well they balanced the Justice League without Superman and getting to see them in action and Superman in action, because he only had like a couple scenes where he was fighting, and so it was great because you got to see the Justice League without him and all of their teamwork and all of their power and stuff, but then you got to see him just dominate for a little bit.
I also wanted to talk about Superman. So, yeah, I agree. Superman has not been done justice in his own movies or in Batman versus Superman. They've made him like he's supposed to represent hope and to be a good guy in general from the comics and the show. In the last 3 movies, they've made him selfish. The only person he'll do anything for is Lois, or I guess his aunt. And yeah, I mean, I think they kind of worked back a little bit and did him some justice in Justice League, but they're still working against all that crap they've put against Superman in the past 3 movies. Like the first scene, the first 15 seconds is that social media video shot of the kid talking to Superman. And we're just supposed to think like, oh, everybody loves Superman now, when the past 3 movies, everybody in the world's been hating him. And not to mention, I mean, I did not know that he had a mustache that was CGI'd out. That first shot, I was like, what? Why does Superman look so weird? I guess we can bring that up later, but I see your face, Jared. You didn't know.
Did he not?
Yeah.
Why didn't he just shave it?
He had it for a different role.
Movie, right?
During the reshoots, he was shooting Mission Impossible 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he had a mustache for that movie that they wouldn't let him shave for Justice League. So in all the reshoot shots, which are a decent amount of Superman scenes, they CGI'd out his mustache. So his upper lip and mouth just looks kind of off. So,
That's hilarious.
that's
I
a
think
side point, but
I kind of did notice that he looked weird. But I forget what I was going to say.
Good point.
I was just going to say, I agree that I think they used him well to show how immensely powerful he is compared to everybody else. And it kind of made Steppenwolf seem just pointless because he beat him so easily at the end. But I mean, most villains are an easy match for Superman. So
Yeah,
that was kind of my take on the whole Superman thing and how they were kind of working against crappy Superman movies in the past, and they had to kind of rebuild him as a good character again.
Yeah, and on top of how strong they made him, I love the way that Batman and the team like talked about him. Like he's just supposed to be the leader of the team, and everyone knew it, and everyone was kind of like Batman especially was the way he was talking about Superman and how the team needs him and all this stuff. Oh, I loved it. I loved it. I'm a homer though. Superman's my guy. So
I want to ask you, Jared, specifically, were there any movements or any moments in the movie that felt like the Justice League cartoon, where you have this amazing camaraderie and this sort of teamwork aspect that you feel in the cartoon that was there in the movie?
Yeah, there were some cool parts like that. I thought each time. Did the team fight Steppenwolf twice?
No, they fought him once.
Just once in that little
they saw him.
Actually,
they saw him twice.
They fought him twice. Once in the sewers.
Yeah.
And then they fought him again. And
yeah, I thought. I don't know. I agree with Joe that like this was that animated show is so good. So it's kind of hard to beat, but whenever like for example, Wonder Woman and Aquaman were double teaming Steppenwolf, I thought that was cool. To be honest, I thought the coolest teamwork came from the Amazons. They were like when they're trying to keep the box away from Steppenwolf, and they were like lasso arrowing it to other people riding horses. That was sweet.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That was probably my favorite part of the movie.
I'm glad you mentioned the box, because this kind of ties into the generic crappy superhero villain that was Steppenwolf and his little bug minions, which are the same thing that the Avengers used. It's just like, it's so generic. There are 3 boxes where if the bad guy gets them all, he can destroy the universe. And Steppenwolf, they gave him background in the ancient battles, but it was essentially like Lord of the Rings, like they gave 1 box to the humans, 1 box to the Amazonians, and 1 to the, who's the third race? I forget.
The
Atlanteans.
Yeah. And he was just a terrible villain. And what makes a good superhero movie oftentimes is a good villain, as you can see in The Dark Knight. So Steppenwolf was just terrible and kind of pulled down the whole movie. If the Justice League had a good villain in this movie, I feel like it would have been great, but it wasn't because the villain sucked.
I thought this was probably the most predictable movie I've seen in a long time, because from probably the first scene, you just know, all right, they're going to resurrect Superman. Superman's probably just going to come in and save the day. They're going to beat Steppenwolf, and like that's going to be the end of it. Like, which I know, like most superhero movies, that's the general plot. But I just felt like this movie, especially, it was everything you just knew how it was going to happen.
I guess I agree with you, but I'm more struck by the fact that it seems like there's really nothing in between the gang assembling and them fighting Steppenwolf. Like what goes on in between there? Their conversations are real surface level, kind of bland. No characters are developing. We aren't learning anything about the characters while we go through these waiting periods, and we're just waiting for the regular superhero movie events to happen, like the big fight at the end.
I think that there's a decent amount of character development, especially with Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman, very surface level. He's just like, yeah, dude. He's just like a surfer guy.
Okay, yeah. So how did Batman and Wonder Woman change from the beginning of the movie to the end?
Batman and Wonder Woman, I mean,
I think we learned about them. I don't know if they changed. I think we learned about them.
Well,
here's the thing. Do they need to
change? Yeah, they do. To have a good story, yeah. It needs to be about characters that change.
I mean, the Flash definitely changed. He was a noob and had never been in a battle before. He had that coaching relationship with Batman, and he kind of helped him through the first battle, and then in the second battle, he could contribute more. There was development there for sure.
A very weak coaching development in that Batman said, find one person, save them in the midst of battle. I think you speak to something that could have been great, where you have, I think a lot of the movie should have been about your pro heroes teaching the newcomer heroes about what it means to be in battle and to be a warrior. And instead they just kind of get thrown into the mix, and it's a little too shallow, I think.
That would have been cool. I agree. I think that you certainly see change in Batman over the arc of all the movies he's been in so far, which is 2. Are you saying something, Jacob? Is he talking?
He's muted.
He's trying to.
Yeah, just checking some of my audio.
Okay, sorry. Because in Batman vs Superman, he's this bitter, vengeful, almost hateful person, and we see him change to this, like, he's just full of regret and he's full of guilt, and I think that his scenes with Wonder Woman bring out some cool things. She has some great lines about. Oh, here's the other thing about the DC movies in general. I think they do a cool thing in how they try to relate themes happening in the movie to the real world.
Such as?
In what way?
Such as, I don't know, like, I can't remember exactly the quotes, but a lot of things Wonder Woman says, I just found myself being like, wow, that's actually a really good thing to remember. But I can't, I don't know. I can't recall. I don't recall. Okay, I don't recall.
Yeah, I will agree with Jared that watching Wonder Woman, she is a really amazing and well-written character. I think she does exemplify everything about what it means to be a good superhero, and I think those take-home messages are some of the benefit that we can get from watching movies like this.
Agreed.
What did you guys think of the random Russian family that they cut to a bunch of times? So
Man, I hate when movies do that. Avengers do it all the time, and like, you have to show the general population's in danger, and so you focus on like a family or two, but it just always seems like so weird to me.
Yeah, but
kind of contrived.
I don't think Avengers ever draw it out for that long.
Yeah.
Well, I would argue with maybe Zeno in Civil War. He was directly affected by the events of Avengers 2. And his family was killed. So I mean,
so Tim, I guess I'll explain a little more. In the movie, a little after halfway through, you start seeing, getting these scenes of this abandoned Russian town where the bad guy has set up base, basically, and it's swarmed with these parademons. And throughout till the end of the movie, you're getting these scenes of a family with a few young kids as they're being kind of terrorized, and they're barricading their homes, and so I guess that's just what happens in the movie for your knowledge.
Cool, thanks.
What were you going to say about Zemo?
Oh, just like he mentions how his family was affected by the Avengers, and they were able to make a very impactful villain out of not even showing his family, but just having some brief exposition by him in Civil War. So it's like, I think the Justice League could have done, maybe, albeit I have not seen the movie, I think they could have done something more effective with just presenting a dilemma without having to drag it on like you guys are saying.
Yeah, I mean, in Man of Steel, the whole city gets destroyed, and you don't see like close-ups of like a specific family and their fight to get out. But then in the follow-up movie, like you see Batman is there and he like sees the destruction. Like that's all you need to do. You don't need to. I don't know. They just wasted so much time. Like, look at this little family, like in so much danger.
Agreed.
Before we wrap up the Justice League talk, I wanted to mention my favorite scene, which was when they revived Superman and they were all fighting him and trying to restrain him. The Flash sprints past him, and Superman's eyes just pan and follow Flash as he's moving, where every other time Flash has been in super speed mode, everyone's just completely frozen because he's so fast. That was super cool. As well as the Flash v Superman foot race, which was one of the post-credit scenes, Tim. As well as they raced to save people in the last battle. I thought that was all really cool. And I've been waiting to see Flash on the big screen since the Justice League. He was my favorite character in the cartoon. And I think that Ezra Miller, I think that's the actor that played him, did a really good job at, I think maybe they should have had him not be quite so inadequate. You know, he tripped a lot and stuff, but obviously they wanted him to seem like the new guy, the new kid, much like Spider-Man was in Homecoming. So I liked the whole Flash thing, especially that scene with Superman.
I want to ask, was Supergirl teased at all or no?
No.
Oh.
I know.
Nope.
I'll say my favorite scene and another scene that struck me. I mentioned earlier, my favorite scene looking back is the chase scene as the Amazon women are trying to save the box from Steppenwolf. And I thought it just had cool moments because they almost get caught like 3 times and they barely get away. And I thought it was really good choreographed action. And there was definitely some emotional payoff when they eventually lose that little fight. But the more I'm remembering the movie, I think about the most pointless scene in a movie I've seen in a long time, and it's when they're trying to figure out how to revive Superman, and the Flash says, he talks about how he can generate this much electricity, and they have this little scene where he runs down the hallway and leaps and touches the boxes they're dropping into the water where Superman is. It's like real choreographed and like overly so, and it adds absolutely zero to the story. I remember like kind of being done with that and like, why couldn't they just have dropped the box into the water and had that be the way they resurrect Superman? What was the last 3 minutes for? And that is kind of my impression of the whole movie, I guess.
My favorite scene was also the eye scene that you were talking about, David. But one thing I wanted to bring up was I'm really starting to like this movie less and less as we talk about it.
Yes.
I think I just really want to like it, and I don't necessarily too much. I think it was an okay movie. I don't think it was great, but the power thing with the 3 boxes, I just remember when they were like, so these things are super powerful, and then Wonder Woman's like, no, they are power. And like, that just seems like, so generic. And like, they're not actually power. If you destroy those boxes, it's not like all power from the world's going to go out. Like, I just hate when they do that in movies. But the only thing I really liked about this movie, I think, was the funny jokes and seeing all the cool superheroes.
It was cheesy, and Flash was a little too over the top. Aquaman was a little too over the top. Superman was so perfect. What a man. Wow.
Cyborg was just their IT guy that plugged into computers.
Yeah.
Huh? What?
I said Cyborg was just their IT guy that plugged himself into computers and stood there.
Yeah, but he was pretty clutch. I like him. I just like the team, man. I like the team. The Justice League's a cool team. But my favorite scene is Aquaman saves the dude from the boat and just pounds that bottle of whiskey in slow motion to hard rock playing in the background, and then swan dives into a raging sea. That's the greatest scene. In fact, that's going down in history.
Okay, yeah. I guess you're right.
All right, I think that's a good point to wrap up the discussion and move on to the debates. Music. Okay, debate number 1 is which superhero most deserves their own feature film? And Jared is the judge. The rest of us will be arguing our individual picks. But Jared, I will hand it over to you from here.
Okay, boys. Okay, here we go. I will ask you first and foremost to give me approximately a 30-second to 1 minute opening statement with your overarching points that you have to make. Let's start with Jacob. What you got?
My character is from the Marvel universe of comics, and the character I think most deserves its own standalone movie is called Beta Ray Bill. He is most related to Thor in his story, and what is striking about him is that he kind of acts as a parallel to Thor because he is one of the only beings worthy enough to lift his mythical hammer Mjolnir. And he has a very interesting story that makes him a very interesting character, one that would be fresh in the current climate of Marvel movies. And he also is makes for a great story that will just communicate to a lot of people. And I hope to communicate that in my next statements.
Oh, that's exciting, and I can't wait. Joe, you're next.
Yeah. My character is going to be Jennifer Walters, also known as She-Hulk. So She-Hulk is basically the cousin of Bruce Banner. She gets a blood transfusion after being wounded and from Bruce Banner, and that in turn makes her into a Hulk. But interestingly, she does not go into like animal mode when she turns into the Hulk. She retains her intelligence and personality, which adds a new interesting facet to the Hulkness.
All right, very good. She sounds big and green. Tim, what you got?
All right, so I am going to be talking about Booster Gold, who is a very underrated character from the DC Comics side of things. I am going to be arguing that because he is very much the opposite of what these extremely noble heroes from DC's current cinematic output are like, he will be a really good balance and counteract against a lot of what Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman are currently at, and he'll add a new liveliness and different kind of side of things to the DC cinematic universe that we haven't seen yet.
I look forward to hearing more about him. Big D, that leaves you.
My pick is the Martian Manhunter from DC Comics. Martian Manhunter is one of the best members of the Justice League in the cartoon, but he also has his own standalone series of comics. He has made a couple appearances in the Supergirl TV show, but that TV show is just very low budget, and he looks kind of crappy in there. But I know that they could do him well in a fully budgeted feature film. He has incredible powers. He rivals Superman's strength. And I think that the DC universe needs somebody to be as strong as Superman, because it's not as fun when just Superman can destroy everyone else. But Martian Manhunter is at his level. And I think that some of the things that make spin-off movies most enjoyable are when they tie them back to other characters like they did in Winter Soldier. And so I think that tying back a Martian Manhunter movie to Batman and Superman, who he's closely tied to in the comics and in the Justice League, would be a great spin-off movie. And Martian Manhunter has a lot of great backstory, and he's very diverse. He can change into different people and everything. So that is my overview of why Martian Manhunter is my pick.
Very good, thank you. Now let's move into the dynamic part of the debate. Anybody may take the floor and expand on their points, or take down someone else's.
I just want to expand on mine. With the She-Hulk thing, so we now live in an age where all superheroes are part of an expanded universe. And I think you can't really have just a superhero without expecting to see that superhero interact with other superheroes. and there's no more like individual superhero movies. So my use for She-Hulk, I think the Avengers are going to go someplace where hopefully after Infinity War, a lot of Avengers are no longer living. And I think that in turn is going to require replacements for the next 20 movies that they're planning on making. And I think a good place to go with that would be if the Hulk is killed or incapacitated or in some way removed from the series, and you get a replacement via the She-Hulk who could add just a whole new facet. You could even do like an individual movie about her because she has this cool backstory as a lawyer. And like the other thing is Marvel and the Avengers have all these issues with, law and like how much power should people have. So having a lawyer could throw some interesting dynamics into that. I just think she would have a lot to offer in the future direction that Marvel is going.
I'm going to provide 2 rebuttals to Joe's points. First, why do we need another lawyer? The Marvel Cinematic Universe already has an amazing lawyer in the form of Daredevil. And I think this would be a much better opportunity for him to move on to moving from the small screen on our TVs to the big screen. I think he could fulfill that lawyer role way better than She-Hulk. And I think people are going to really respond way better to him because he's already an established character. Beyond that, you said the Hulk might die. He cannot be killed. Banner himself has tried to kill himself multiple times.
Incapacitated is what I meant.
They actually haven't. There's no set plans, but they have talked about it and not ruled out bringing in Daredevil and Kingpin to the MCU.
My issue with that is I've always disliked when some of the characters like Hawkeye and Scarlet Joe, whoever her person's name is, those people are going to get crushed by any alien force that comes.
Nah, dude, he can shoot arrows.
Yeah, great. Congrats. Like, I don't want more Daredevil human types. I want more superheroes.
What?
I think
Joe.
I was just gonna say, I think Daredevil deserves to be on a little bit higher tier than Hawkeye.
For sure.
He's actually got superpowers.
Yep.
He's blind.
Okay, well, maybe.
Hey, this is
Joe,
going to
my
be a
rebuttal
moment
to
where I
your pick.
discuss about Daredevil when he says, I can't remember. I think it was the nurse character asked him, "What is it like to have your superpowers?" And he's like, "It's a world on fire." And it's just
that really cheesy shot of just like hazy red. Yeah, I like that.
It's like you just
Joe,
got
my rebuttal to your pick of She-Hulk. Joe, my rebuttal to your pick of She-Hulk would be, she's just too similar to the Hulk. We don't need another Hulk. The Hulk is great already, and I just think that she's not very original. Obviously, she's just the girl version of Hulk. Same thing why, I mean, I don't think, I've seen a couple episodes of the Supergirl show. I don't think she's that great. She's just the girl version of Superman. But yeah, it's just the same thing, and we don't need another Hulk. Bruce Banner is already awesome.
But Beta Ray Bill is essentially Thor's.
Nope. Let me hop in and talk to you about why you're wrong. Not only do superpowers a superhero make, I think I might have messed that up. Their powers aren't the defining characteristic of them. You have to actually look at the character. And Beta Ray Bill would be a strikingly fresh character for a superhero movie. And here's why. His whole story, he enters the Marvel and Avengers scene as the leader of a refugee species of aliens. They are fleeing their home planet, and he is their leader. He is a husband and a father and the highest figure in an entire race. And they're traveling the universe to try to find a new home. They cross by Earth. Thor is asked to go scope it out, and Beta Ray Bill sees Thor as a threat, as he rightly should. They get into a fight. Beta Ray Bill actually beats him and picks up his hammer from his own worthiness. Odin has to step in, break up the fight, and he decides to make Beta Ray Bill his own magical hammer because he is worthy. This is all to say that this is an overall, he's an old character. He's an old man. He is wise. He is worthy. There's not much going on as far as he doesn't have to come of age, and he's poised to have a story from an interesting perspective, one that we haven't seen in a superhero movie so far. And I think that's especially could come from the fact that he is a family man. So he's not the same as Thor, because Thor starts as a young punk. And I don't think that the equivalency of the two is fair at all.
Yeah, but Beta Ray Bill is ugly, and no one wants to watch a movie with a horse face guy.
Oh, yeah, that is it's not a good argument, but I agree with you.
Jacob, I'm glad you mentioned the family man thing, because Martian Manhunter's backstory is also actually yours sucks, but his is great.
Oh, okay,
and
yeah, but they're real similar though, right?
Kind of. He has a few different versions. They kind of rework characters in comics every few decades sometimes. So there's a couple of different versions, but the one I'm going to go with, the ones that they used in the Justice League show, was he is a Martian, so he's on Mars. A species invaded, and they spread a disease across all of his people that would cause them to burst into flames. His family was all killed, including his wife and children. And this developed his one weakness, which is fire. And it's not even a physical weakness. He said that physically it can't actually hurt him, but because it's a psychosomatic weakness, it actually physically hurts him because his brain is so scared of fire. So he has his kryptonite, and that's fire. A few of his villains, one named the Human Flame, they use fire against him in this way. I think his villains are very, very good, and I think the villains are what often make a superhero good. It's half of the equation. Some of his villains, Mongol, White Martian, which is an interesting kind of opposite of the Green Martians, what he is. There's a whole race of White Martians which are out to get the Green Martians in kind of a genocidal war. And there's a ton of other villains that he's faced, but I mean, his powers, there's so many to name. Superhuman strength, durability, flight, regeneration, shapeshifting. It goes on and on. But he has equal power to Superman overall. That's what the consensus is. And I just think that he's one of the favorite characters in the Justice League. He's kind of a mix between Batman and Superman. He has the intellect, but he has the power. And one of his primary forms that he lived on the Earth in for a while was a detective, and that's how he met Batman in his comics in 1955. So he's a very smart guy, and I think that the flexibility of him being able to change shapes into different people is kind of what gives a good opportunity for a story, whatever story you kind of want could be his part of the movie, because he can turn into anybody who he wants to be. So those are some of my reasons for the Manhunter. Oh, as well as he got the name Manhunter because once everyone in his species died on Mars, he gave himself the name Manhunter because he wanted to find the man who killed his family. So that's a pretty badass superhero name origination story.
Tim, I don't know anything about your character.
Booster Gold. So that's fine. I actually think that's one of his advantages. So I'll give you a quick summary. Basically, he is a man from the future who works at a museum dedicated to time travel. And he has these grandiose ideas of becoming rich and famous in the past by stealing one of the time machines on display and using it purely for his own monetary benefit. And he also happens to steal, because in the future technology has advanced to the point where power suits are very common. He steals a power suit and a robotic sidekick named Skids. He was actually in Justice League Unlimited a few times, and that's where I first got to know him. So he goes back in time and basically establishes himself as a member of the Justice League, or just within the DC universe, and very quickly becomes clear to Superman and Batman that this guy is really just in it for the fame and glory. I kind of equate him to being an Arnold Schwarzenegger type early on in his career, just like, buff, kind of Adonis looking guy. and he just wants the fame and glory from adoring fans. And I think what the best part is about him is slowly through some of the Justice League cartoon episodes he's been in, he realizes that there's way more to being a hero than just the fame and the glory. And because he's coming in as this really hot-headed, way different, doesn't have a good sense of right and wrong, or even like, a strong sense of superhero guided morality, I think he could be a really good counterbalance to these kind of stern and stoic Batman and Superman that we see in the DC cinematic universe right now.
So Tim, that was going to be one of my questions, was how does he balance out the heroes that we already have? So that's good to hear. Do you picture in a standalone movie Booster Gold? Is there a superhero you can think of now that you might compare him to as far as okay?
Yeah, definitely. So on the Marvel side of things, it's an extreme comparison, but definitely Deadpool in terms of not really having a strong moral code, but not as violent as Deadpool at all, but definitely kind of, how to say, I guess sort of immature. But I think there could be a much better potential for growth for Booster Gold to become a truly contributing member of the Justice League in the movies. And I think if we're looking at like a big picture thing, I think he could kind of give perspective to maybe how in our world right now, there might be people who don't feel like they want to contribute positively to maybe the greater good, but over time he's convinced to do so by the other members of the Justice League. But I see him mainly as a comedic relief character, potentially in a Justice League movie down the line that slowly becomes turned to a much more contributive hero.
Very good. So I have some other questions. Let's go to Joe. Haven't heard from you in a while.
Okay.
How do you respond to these criticisms that David's thrown your way that She-Hulk is just the Hulk? Like, give us something fresh. Come on. What do you say to that?
I disagree strongly. I mean, She-Hulk is the most interesting part about her is that she maintains her humanhood while being a superpower. And again, like I said about the lawyer thing, Daredevil's not in the MCU, so I think that having a lawyer in there could contribute a large part right now, and it would actually be a hero that could do something. But I'm serious about in the future. I think MCU is going to get rid of a lot of characters, hopefully in Infinity War, and maybe the Infinity Stones will banish Bruce Banner or the Hulk to outer space or to another dimension. I don't know. I'm sure there's something you could do there. And so how cool would it be if you get a scene where in a future movie there's this girl who kind of befriends Scarlett Johansson's character, and they're like, she's a lawyer and stuff, and then some bad guys attack, and then all of a sudden she turns into the Hulk again, and you're like, whoa, because this is Bruce Banner's cousin, and then she helps out. I just think that would be sweet, and it would add a new dynamic to the whole Hulk idea.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Now let's hear from David. You know, I was saying earlier in the podcast, when we were talking about Justice League, that it's hard to make a good Superman movie because Superman is just so powerful that he can either beat everyone or whatever. Like I think that plays a part of why Superman movies aren't that good. I worry about that with Martian Manhunter. Make me worry about it less.
I think that he balances out Superman. I think that he could have his own standalone movie, but I think it'd be good to have Superman in there because they're of equal power. I mean, I think an origination story of him maybe going against the Superman or the Justice League at the beginning would be cool because Superman and him could have a battle of some sort. I think that I don't think his powers are limiting, especially because he still has a weakness that a lot of his enemies utilize against him. So I think that his powers are all very cool in combination. And I mean, I think that he just balances out the DC universe in general because Superman is such a big part of that universe. And because DC's been having so many issues with Superman and presenting him in the right way in the past 3 movies, I just think that they kind of need him in order to make Superman not just the God character, but just one of the most powerful beings in the universe. So I think that they'll help balance each other out.
Kind of speaking directly what David just said, I actually would argue that Booster Gold would make a much better counterbalance to make Superman into a more relatable and even just a way better character in an upcoming Justice League movie, mainly because unlike Martian Manhunter, Booster Gold does not have these grandiose powers. Sure, he's got some super strength, but ultimately it's just from a suit. And I think what you guys were mentioning about your criticism of Justice League, where you really wanted to see more of a coaching aspect between, say, Batman or Superman and Flash, you could really get this with the more wizened members of the Justice League having to forcibly show, hey, Booster Gold, like, you know, this isn't about you being selfish and wanting the fame and glory. It's about what we stand for as heroes and how we can be selfless for other people. So I think rather than bringing Martian Manhunter, who's just, it sounds to me like David's shooting himself in the foot. It sounds like he's wanting Martian Manhunter to come in and be a complete reset for Superman, which is just not the case. I think it's more important to have the characters around Superman become humbled by his ability to give such good leadership.
Tim, I feel like Thor kind of, well, never mind. That's MCU. I retract my statement.
Oh, okay.
All right, fine. Last question for Jacob. And I'll ask you to keep it slightly brief. Do you envision that backstory you told about horse guy, Billy Ray Cyrus?
Billy.
Is it Billy Ray Cyrus? No, Beta Ray Bill. Okay. Do you envision the backstory from Beta Ray Bill being his movie?
Backstory of him fighting Thor and getting his
leading his people, you know, out of exile or whatever, and fighting Thor, and then getting the hammer.
Yeah, the story I imagine him having is in not so much fighting Thor, and I don't see that being a big element of a standalone movie for him. I would see it at be a story of him as a character that is supposed to be the ultimate protector of a whole people that is having to fight a force that has removed him from his own planet. So more of the struggle of a father and of a leader, trying to stay strong when odds are stacked against him. Not so much the fight of him and Thor, because that really is it's the introduction of that character, but it's not the heart of the character, and it's not why he deserves to have a movie.
Okay, very good. As closing statements, I would like each of you to answer in about 30 seconds this question. Or I'd like to at least get you an element of this question, and if you want to make your own closing statement, that's fine. But my question is, what makes a good superhero movie? I mean, what makes a superhero movie good? And why does each character that you guys chose, you know, add to the goodness of the movie? And 30 seconds, please. You can add in other things if you want. Let's start with, how about Joe? You go first.
A good superhero movie needs to have She-Hulk.
Wow.
No, it needs some.
That is a winning argument.
And I think you could provide that. And it needs to be something new. And I think you can provide that with She-Hulk, in the form of kind of revealing her from being just this lawyer lady to fighting. Look, I'm going to finish out by saying some sayings that I think apply to my character. Number one, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think we've seen the Hulk, and I think She-Hulk would be a good follow-up. And number two, never watch a movie with a guy with a horse face, because that sounds horrible. I'm out. That's all I got.
I've never heard that saying before.
It's a saying. Look it up.
You know, it's a, yeah.
All right. Jacob.
The same things that make a superhero movie good are the ones that make a regular movie good or a regular story, you have to have clear, consistent characters that face conflict, overcome them, and change because of it for the better. And I think Beta Ray Bill offers the most in that, and in a fresh and exciting way, because he is going to be a character that is a hero that starts out as a protector, not one that needs to grow in his own strength, but maybe grow in coping with his own weaknesses, and all the while overcoming adventurous and dangerous odds. And he is, all of these options that we have here are good, fresh options, but the important part of my character isn't that he has these cool superpowers like I think some of the other debates emphasized. It's that he is an interesting role as a hero, and he's one that could tell that story better than any of the other options.
Okay, thank you. David?
I agree with some of your points there, Jacob, that the story is essential, having a character arc. I think that Martian Manhunter's story includes tragedy, the eradication of his whole species, and he was the last man standing, defeating the enemy on his planet, but to no avail because he's stuck lonely. And I think that will be a great start to his story. And then he has to go to Earth because his planet isn't occupied anymore by anybody. He has to learn to survive in a new environment. I think that there could be lots of comedic elements with his shape-shifting in certain situations. But on top of that, he's so noble, and I think that what made the Wonder Woman movie so great and what people like so much about it is because she's just such a noble, honorable character, and that's refreshing after seeing a movie like Deadpool or seeing a Booster Gold, a kind of douchey character like that. I think that we need those honorable superheroes, and Martian Manhunter is that. And on top of that, his relations with the Justice League and everything else, I just think creates a really good opportunity for a great movie with lots of different elements, a great story, and as well as the great villains that I mentioned briefly before, because that's very important for a superhero movie.
Thank you, Big D. Tim, bring us home.
Okay, so to me, there's two key elements to a great superhero movie. It's realizing that there's a hero in all of us, and it's also about seeing the good in the world where you never expected to see it before. And so going back to what it means to be a member of the Justice League, I think they exemplify more than other superhero teams that real leadership is about bringing up the weakest member. And so it might be really easy to say, yeah, Booster Gold, he's kind of a douchebag, doesn't really carry his own weight. But I think the more nobler aspect is to motivate him to become the best hero that he's capable of becoming and becoming morally stronger. So I think it could really be amazing to see Superman, who's already a great leader, and Batman, who's an excellent leader, really just bring out the best in him, because then I think it could motivate the audience to do the same in their own lives.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay.
Quick side note, in the live chat on YouTube, Kevin O said, David's mom is a superhero. Her milkshakes are otherworldly.
That is true.
And milkshakes meaning, you drink a milkshake. So
They are delicious.
Right. Yeah.
If only he were in the debate. That sounds like a good argument to me. Well,
Better than my own.
I have come to my decision. And to the listeners, no, I don't hate Joe. I don't. I love him to death. He's one of my closest friends. But this was not a good argument, Joe.
For once, I agree with you.
This was a bad argument.
For once?
Halfway through, I was like, this is awful.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to sleep well tonight giving you fourth place, because that was no good.
I just want to say, for that matter, I don't think any of these. I don't want to see any of these movies. I'm sick of standalone superhero movies, like Ant-Man and a sixth super or Spider-Man movie.
No, Ant-Man is great.
It was
like
so
Ant-Man.
unnecessary.
All right.
Boo.
Back in.
Bad opinion.
I mean, these next two are hard. These next three are hard, I mean. But I've got it written down. So basically tied. I got to give you guys a tie for two, I think. I mean, it's a coin flip 2 and 3 pretty much. And that is, and thus revealing the winner, I suppose. I guess I should just reveal the winner. So I'll say this. The winner is Jacob.
Ooh.
No.
Nice. Good. Yeah, I would have voted for Beta Ray Bill for sure.
I would have voted for, if not me, Tim.
No, because here's the thing. Here's my reasoning. Well, let me say good things about both of your arguments real quick. David, I very much appreciated that you brought up villains. You were the only one to do it, and I think if I were differentiating between you and Tim, I got to give you second place because I think villains is a big part of superhero movies. Tim, you're not a third place guy. You're a second place guy. You're tied. I mean, like it was a good argument from all three of you guys. It was very good arguments. I like the idea of balancing characters. I like the idea of, Tim, you talked about character development and how he would be great for that. So I thought that was really good. Ultimately, what I liked from Jacob was, I think he makes a great point about the freshness of that type of character. As well as he was the only one who really gave it. Everyone else relied pretty heavily on the existing universe, and Jacob was able to make it a good argument for the standalone movie without relying on the existing universe. But more than that, I like the idea of his character, and I love his story. So the winner is Jacob.
Thank you very much. Very much. I would be excited at all four of these options, and I think, Joe, you did She-Hulk no justice.
Did not.
If you can
Did
spare
not.
the lawyer wordplay.
Tim, you really convinced me that Booster Gold's movie would be awesome.
Oh, well, dude, here's the thing. Like, as you were speaking, David, I totally realized how dope it would be to see, I think, a Martian Manhunter movie. Because, like, I think to me the best part of Man of Steel was the initial part on Krypton. And you speaking about the grandeur of the Martian civilization before it disappeared, I think could actually be a really good first third of a movie.
Yeah.
I think the main thing to expand upon is I could not name a single Martian Manhunter villain, but I just love that he could be an alien, kind of like Beta Ray Bill, and be really different, but also strikingly human.
Yep.
Jacob, actually, your Beta Ray Bill comic strip that you sent to our little group chat. I thought I read that thing. I was like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's kind of his character.
He sounds like a cool dude.
Jacob, here's my question. Do you think it would be, I think the best way for Beta Ray Bill to enter into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even for his own movie, would be in the aftermath of Infinity War, or during, kind of as like an aside story, some of Thanos' minions are wrecking his planet or civilization or whatever, and he's forced to kind of take up the mantle to join the Avengers, or just kind of fight against them on his own.
I have no confidence at all that he will ever be in an MCU movie.
Really?
But yeah, because like we've got 3 Thor movies now, and he really needs to be part of a Thor story, and it's got to be about his hammer. And I know that the hammer gets destroyed in this last movie, and I haven't seen it. And like that seems to be, it's always about the hammer.
Spoilers.
Spoiler. What the heck?
It's in the trailer.
It is in the
about
trailer.
hammer, I feel like, and that would have to be a part of the Beta Ray Bill story too. And I don't really want to see that element get too tired. So I'm fine with it not being in that being like that and letting the character live on in comic books.
All right, let's move on to debate number 2. I'm excited for this one. What's the best superhero movie of all time? And Jacob will be judging this one.
All right, this topic is what is the best superhero movie of all time? That's a joke. Not that like it's not that, but I thought I was gonna say the title of the prompt of the debate.
That was hey, that was not a funny joke.
I don't follow the joke.
Yep, you are right. Okay. We are going to go in random order, and the first number I thought of was 3. So the third.
Wait. You want to bring up the fact that we all disqualified certain movies?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
We agreed that Dark Knight and the Dark Knight trilogy wouldn't be included.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that the other two were off limits, but I was definitely down on saying Dark Knight is off limits.
Yeah.
Just because
That's
it's too good.
It's just too good.
It is too good. Yeah, but I also think like if we're talking superhero movies, I really
you could
think Dark Knight does. I think powers could be a really key element of any good superhero movie. I don't know.
Please refer to our past episode on.
Yeah, Jared and I already won that debate.
So we have listeners. We have decided to rule out the Dark Knight trilogy, specifically the Dark Knight, because we all agree it's pretty much the greatest. We're going to have a little more fun with the gray areas tonight. So, as I said earlier, we're going to go with the third person in order of the little screens at the bottom of mine. We're going to start with Tim's opening statement. Let's try to keep it at 30 seconds or less. You have the floor.
Okay, I'm going to argue that The Incredibles is the best superhero movie ever. I think it does an incredible job of introducing a bunch of world building and a bunch of characters all within one self-contained movie. It has not milked any sort of previously existing franchise dry in the presentation of its world, atmosphere, interaction between characters. It's just phenomenal. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who's not a fan of this film.
Thank you very much, Tim. On to the next one. Big D, you have the floor.
All right. So superhero movies in general are often not great movies. They lack a lot of character development. They often inject pointless action scenes, and they have generic villains a lot of the time. So my pick is Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, because it's the best superhero movie and one of my favorite movies. So there are 3 main areas that this movie really excels at. It's the drama of the characters and the character development, the action scenes, and the villain. The villain, Dr. Octopus, is incredible, very well acted by Alfred Molina. I can get into that more. There are very memorable action scenes. I'm sure everyone remembers the train fight scene with Spider-Man and Doc Ock, as well as others. And the character development, which I'll get into, it could be a drama movie if you remove all the action scenes out of it.
Awesome. Thanks, Big D. Now the other big, Joe.
Yeah. So to have a good, a great, the best superhero movie, I think you need 3 criteria. I think you need scale, because superheroes deserve super movies. And I think you need impressive originality. I think the more original a movie is, or the more first of its kind it is, the better. And I think you need also amazing performance, because like David said, a lot of these movies just kind of lack character development. And the movie that I think best correlates with those 3 is The Avengers. The first one.
All right. Jared, your turn.
Okay. We're trying to evaluate art in some kind of objective sense. So I'd like to point out that the best way to evaluate art, in fact, maybe the only fair way to evaluate art, is by its creator's standards. Okay, so keep that in mind as a theme as I talk. But other ways and important ways to compare and measure movies. How much money did it make? How much impact did it have on society? How much did people like it? And most important part of movies is casting. So consider all those things and you'll come to the conclusion that Wonder Woman is the best superhero movie.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Great opening statements. Now, I would like to give. Let's open the floor. Everyone, I'd like to hear some elaborations when you find the chance, as well as some absolutely brutal thrashing of the opposing arguments.
Jared, I think that one major thing that sticks out for Wonder Woman that I think disqualifies it from being the best superhero movie is the villain. The villain is very generic. The ending of the movie is very poor. And I just think that the villain just really pulls that movie down from being great to being good and cannot be considered the best superhero movie, even at a stretch.
I need some enlightening. I've not seen the movie. So, like, tell me about the villain and the poor ending as quickly as you can.
So the villain is undercover. He's disguised as a British government or army person or something like that. At the end of the movie, in the final battle, he unmasks himself as this alien guy that has some sort of powers.
No, Ares is not an alien. I don't think. He's just literally the god of war, right?
Yeah, he's
Oh,
Ares.
yeah. Yeah, he's the Greek god of war, Ares. And just didn't do it for me. But if Jared, if you liked it, please explain.
Well, I'd love to explain, and I'll expand on my points as a whole here. So, I mean, you're saying you didn't like the villain. Someone else says, oh, well, I love the villain. You know, someone else says he was all right. Here's the idea. We got to have some way of measuring. Remember my criteria. We got to have some way of measuring how well people like the movie, right? Luckily, we do. There's a great thing called what's it called? Rotten Tomatoes.
You're shooting yourself in the foot here, Jared.
Yeah.
Judge, I asked that you. I accidentally lost my page, so I'm pulling it right back up. Okay.
Sounds like a bad argument.
No. It'll work. So there's a great thing called Rotten Tomatoes, and Rotten Tomatoes, people get to say how much they like the movie, and each movie is given ratings, and these ratings can be interpreted as how well the movie was liked. Well, Rotten Tomatoes smartly has an adjusted score that they do themselves to make up for differences in how many reviews a movie has gotten. So, with that being said, here are all of our for all of our movies listed by Rotten Tomatoes' own score. Actually, Spider-Man 2 doesn't crack the top 10. I'm not going to go look for it, but it's somewhere outside the top 10. Incredibles comes in at number 9. Honorable. You made the top 10 as far as how much people liked it. It's the 9th most liked superhero movie of all time. Where is The Incredibles? The Avengers. Number 6. Very good, Joe. Number 6 most liked superhero movie of all time. You can feel good about that. You really can.
I'm sorry, what are you basing this off?
Rotten Tomatoes scores. Adjusted scores.
What are
these adjusted scores
based on?
Say again?
What was the adjustment based on?
The adjustment is based on how many reviews each movie has gotten. And so here is the explanation of the adjusted score from Rotten Tomatoes website. The adjusted score comes from a weighted formula, parentheses, Bayesian, that we use that accounts for variation in the number of reviews per movie. All right, this is Rotten Tomatoes' own system, okay? I'm not like pulling this out of anywhere. Anyway, So you guys were all close. David was far away. Number one, and the only one in the top 5 out of all these movies, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, by the best measure we have, is the most liked of all the movies we have. So you don't like the villain. Everybody loves Wonder Woman, villain and all. Big D.
What best metric? What are you talking
Okay, so
about?
I'm going to bring in a science point here. So, Jared, it sounds to me like you've used statistics to determine this point, yes?
I have done nothing. I found a list that Rotten Tomatoes made of highest rated superhero movies on their entire website.
But you mentioned Bayesian probabilities, yes?
I did.
Okay, so we have a saying in the laboratory, if you need to use statistics to interpret your experiment, you've run a bad experiment. So it sounds to me like you've made a bad argument.
I need you to
And
elaborate
Jared,
on that.
you didn't address the villain whatsoever, and you're using Rotten Tomatoes to back up your argument. And the critic rating on Spider-Man 2 is 94%. The critic rating on Wonder Woman is 92%. So I win.
And Avengers is 92%, and the audience score is higher, and the average rating is higher for Avengers versus Wonder Woman.
Right. You guys can keep your bad ratings. I'll keep the adjusted rating, the one that Rotten Tomatoes itself says is the one that should be used. And Wonder Woman is number 1. And Big D, I'm telling you that this score, it incorporates the villain. Like, the point I'm making is that one of the most important things about a superhero movie or any movie is, did people like it? People loved Wonder Woman. It has the highest rating on Rotten Tomatoes by their best metric. I have a lot more to say, but I've talked for a while, so
Yeah, I think we've gone through. We've sat in this the part of this argument for a while, and I think the important things have been said. I would like for Tim to elaborate on. Give me more of a central idea to why The Incredibles is the best. I think I kind of got a hint of it in the opening statement, but I'd like to really solidify it.
Sure. So to use a comparison, to me, The Incredibles is the best Fantastic Four movie that has ever been made. Mainly, I say that I make a comparison to a great Marvel family because this is a family movie at heart. Not only is it for kids and for families, but I think the fact that they are a family that has real struggles between, dysfunctionalness and coming to terms with, the kids are growing up and getting older. And I think really what makes The Incredibles great is that it is a family movie at heart for all ages and really exemplifies what it means to be super, not only in your daily life, but also if you happen to have incredible powers. I also just love the intro. I would argue it's one of the best intros to a movie ever because it encapsulates this whole backstory and world building over the span of, I guess it's like 2 decades within 5-10 minutes. And also the villain is just phenomenal. Like, I think the best villain in any sort of movie, TV, book, whatever, is the one that is from and directly correlated to the superhero's past or the main character's past. And that's totally what you get in Syndrome's character.
Awesome. Does anyone have anything to say about that? Joe?
It's a cartoon.
Cartoon. Hey, well, look at this, Buster. Where did all of these superhero live action movies come from? Comic books. That's a cartoon.
I mean, I have something to say about Incredibles.
Okay.
I've already mentioned its spot on Rotten Tomatoes. On top of that, it's the lowest grossing film on this out of all of our choices.
Oh man, yeah, because the best grossing movies ever. Here, let's pull up a list of the top 10 grossing movies of all time.
Titanic.
All right. In the meantime, I want to talk about my film and not these stupid ratings. So I mentioned drama, action, and the villain in Spider-Man 2. I think what this movie does a really good job of is kind of making you realize what it would be like to actually be Spider-Man as a teenager in New York. They just totally beat down Peter throughout the movie where he's just like hopeless and he gives up being Spider-Man. Everything goes wrong for him. Harry hates him. MJ gets really mad at him because he misses her play because he's out doing Spidey stuff. Aunt May even has issues with him. He's just so beat down, and you would have so many issues like that if you had to hide being Spider-Man like he does. So I love that realism. On top of that, the villain, Doc Ock is introduced with an awesome scene that's kind of shot like a horror movie. He's in the hospital bed, and when his arms come to life and just tear apart all the doctors, and I love that scene. It's very memorable. Some of the action scenes, I mentioned the train scene is one of the best action scenes of all time, as well as the bank robbery by Doc Ock, and then the pizza delivery scenes at the beginning of the movie. I think lots of people have fond memories of because the Spider-Man 2 video game on PlayStation 2, so fun swinging around New York. So I just think that these three areas just really make it the best superhero movie, and we really get invested in the characters. The character development is what makes the action scenes even better because you're invested in them, and there's lots of emotion in the fights because you care about Peter. And even Doc Ock you have empathy towards him because he's such a good villain. He didn't want these tentacles, or he didn't want to do all these terrible things, but then he slowly degrades and gets more evil as the movie goes on. And I think that's a good villain arc right there.
Thank you, Big D. I'm gonna say we could do maybe 30 seconds more of if anyone has something they want to say, but I'd like to move into closing statements. Or I guess, Joe, I'd like to give you some time. I don't really have many notes on you.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, the three things I was talking about: large scale, performance, and originality. I just think Avengers matches all these so well, and I think we'd all be stupid to think any of these movies are bad movies. But in terms of a superhero movie, what you want is a super movie, like I said earlier. And I think no superhero movie before the Avengers was quite like it, where it took so many different characters, integrated them into a movie, and seamlessly pulled off a good plot. And it was so much power, so much different abilities coming together. And I think that's what you want in a superhero movie. I know all these are pretty cool, and maybe Tim's Incredibles would be the closest thing to rival me in terms of scale because it has multiple superheroes doing cool things. But the other two, I mean, you're just dealing with kind of one character's development. And I mean, the best superhero movie to me is the one that just gives the most superheroes the most plot and does it and pulls it off well. And I think the Avengers does that extremely well.
All right. Thank you, Joe. I'd like to move into closing statements. So you can use it to rebut or just but. But let's do about 30 seconds and start with Jared.
All right. Well, we got really caught up on this Rotten Tomatoes thing, so I barely got to the rest of my points, so I'm going to pack them into 30 seconds. One of the things I mentioned in my opening statement was casting. Gal Gadot is a star, an absolute star. She's the greatest part of any of the movies we've mentioned. The casting of her casting is it's amazing. She's a star. Chris Pine is in this movie. It's a great cast. But I think Gal Gadot alone, like she's the best part of any of these movies. Next, impact. Okay, on society. The marginal impact of one more movie with a male superhero is zero, basically. The marginal impact of one more movie with a great Wonder Woman who's fierce and strong and confident and a leader and all these things is big. It's big. Rotten Tomatoes score, people liked it the most. It made a lot of money. And David and Tim were arguing completely anecdotally. They were arguing their opinions. And like it or not, Big D, you can't make an argument out of opinions. Like, we have to have ratings to measure and compare. So you can hate on my scores all you want, but your opinions ain't going to win this argument.
All right. Joe, your turn.
Yeah, so I talk a lot about the large scale, which I think is hugely important in being a great superhero movie. But I'm also going to talk about originality because this was the first of its kind. All these other movies kind of had previous templates for taking a movie with one superhero and making it into something else. I mean, Spider-Man 2 was literally a sequel. The Incredibles came after some other superhero movies, and of course, Wonder Woman is kind of on the back end of all of the superheroes, so they had a lot to go off. But the Avengers was the first one to really take a huge cast, put it together, make it seamless. And we've seen so many other movies try and do that, like Love Actually, where it has all these good actors, but it's just a bad movie. And like this is kind of the first time you see this many characters work well together.
All right, David, your turn.
I'd like to start off with the rebuttal against Joe because I didn't get to fit it in there. But I think that Joe, yeah, yours is a really cool action movie with a lot of superheroes in it. But I think the main flaw that it's lacking is just character development because it has too many characters to really develop the characters. And I think that Spider-Man does an incredible job at that. And that's one of the main criteria that's missing from your movie. Wonder Woman doesn't have a good villain. Your movie doesn't have good character development compared to Spider-Man 2. And The Incredibles is a cartoon. So that's the that's the bad thing about The Incredibles. But Spider-Man 2, Peter Parker is somebody that you can relate with. He's someone whose powers are really cool that you want to have. He has a great villain as well as issues with his personal life with MJ. I think that the whole movie, you just want him to tell MJ he's Spider-Man. Like it would solve so many problems if he told people. And you get that satisfying ending where he tells MJ while he's holding up a thing crushing him that Doc Ock put on his head. And then he has just like great lines. I think Tobey Maguire is a great Spider-Man. I think his line is like, it's heavy, or he's like, hi. I don't know. He's just like a perfectly awkward Peter Parker. And I think it's the best Spider-Man movie out of all of them and the best superhero movie. I think I've gone over my criteria pretty in depth, but the drama, the action, and the villain is what makes Spider-Man 2 the best.
All right, Tim, final closing statement.
All right. I'm going to say that before the Avengers was even a twinkle in Robert Downey Jr.'s eye, that The Incredibles was there doing this great superhero banter, comedy, interaction, and amazing fight sequences way before any of these other large team-up superhero movies came about. More so than that, I think The Incredibles opens with a great homage to the classic 1960s era of superheroes, kind of in the art style, and then you transition into kind of a more mature reality of complex villains, complex interrelationships between characters and family members, and more than anything, you just have great superhero interaction and powers, all culminating in amazing lines by Samuel L. Jackson character of Frozone.
All
Is he
right,
voiced by Samuel L. Jackson?
Oh yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
dude. You
Nick
rewatch
Fury,
that
dude.
movie. All right. I need to do some thinking for a second.
Okay, let me read the I was going to read some social media answers to the first debate, so I'm going to read it now and pretend that I'm saying it right before we're starting the first debate, and I'll just cut and paste, okay? I'm going to first read some Instagram replies to the which superhero deserves their own feature film question. Optimus Kime said, Martian Manhunter would be dope, but I'd be hella pumped for a Hawk Girl movie.
Ooh, yeah, that would be dope.
I agree. I was thinking about that as my second choice. Condor X Mecha Godzilla said Spoderman. So I think that's a troll right there, ladies and gentlemen. And Jeff Myers Jr. said Green Lantern deserves a second chance, which I totally agree with.
That is true.
And then my very own wife, Danny Rolfing, said Black Widow.
Ooh.
I like how you laughed at that.
No, she's.
Aren't
good.
her and Hawkeye getting their own movie? Wasn't that on the books a while back?
I thought they had a buddy movie.
Yeah, that's what I was hearing.
Dude, if you guys want to see Hawkeye's origin story, watch the movie Wind River.
Oh yeah.
That's a good one.
Will do.
All right.
I'm almost there. I'm almost there.
You can start
let's-
now, Jacob.
I'm really almost.
All right, so how about Hawk Girl? Let's talk about her for a sec.
Hot girl.
Yeah, right? So what's her origin? Because I loved playing as her in the Injustice games, but is she an alien or is she just like a fantasy type character or what?
Hawk Girl, she has wings.
Yeah, I know, but like, where is she, like, what's her backstory? Is she kind of more of a goddess-esque thing like Wonder Woman or what's the deal?
I know there's a Hawk Man. I think there are more of them. I think there's a planet, but I could be wrong.
Oh, no, that is right. Yeah, because in the finale of one of the Justice League cartoons, her whole species comes to Earth. Yeah, I remember that.
All right, I have my rankings, and we start with last place, and it's Jared.
Haha.
Not because scores are bad, but because it wasn't what you. I don't. It wasn't really tied in to your evaluate art by its creator's standards thing.
Yeah, you're right. It's a good point. Man, we spent so much time on that freaking Rotten Tomatoes thing that
I know.
I forgot my point. But yeah, the director said that her only goal for this movie is that people would like it, and people liked it the most out of all of them.
And yeah,
Of course that was
a good
her
thing,
goal.
but yeah.
Isn't that everyone's goal that's ever made a movie?
No, people make movies to tell stories
That people will like.
sometimes. Third place is Big Joe,
Harsh.
and it is because I think Tim poked a big hole in your argument in the fact that Incredibles did actually come out first. You had your originality going, but the originality was in its scale, and that you had so many characters.
Much bigger
and-
scale.
Yeah, well, it is bigger. It wasn't small, and
Not a
it was just-
cartoon.
yeah. See, that was my least favorite part of this whole debate. I thought y'all were joking about the cartoon thing. And
I was.
and while it is the worst argument that I think has ever been on a hostile discourse debate, the fact that a movie is bad because it's animated. In spite of that, I give David the first slot because his argument stuck to the intrinsic parts of the movie. He gave evidence for his different points about the villain, the drama, and the action. And yeah, Tim had a close second because everything he said was so great. And he was the only one to apply it to, I guess, like the viewer's life, while still being intrinsic to his argument was still intrinsic to the movie itself. Talked about aspects of the story and the art, but his argument did move around a little bit. The closing statement was a little off center with talking about the homage versus modern reality, and then getting into the dialogue. But there it is. Those are my rulings. Dilly dilly.
Really, really.
Thank you, Judge.
Dilly
for the
dilly.
win. Tim, I could not think of one bad thing for The Incredibles, so that's just why I harped on the cartoon thing.
I picked a good movie to argue for. I think it's just because we all have such fond memories of every single character in that movie. Like,
Oh, yes.
can you guys think of anything bad about it? Like, seriously, like, I can't.
I'm trying to think. Honestly, dude, I think he could. No, I got nothing, dude. I got nothing bad about that movie.
One thing did pop into my head. I can't quite recall. Oh, no, that's not even bad. So I thought Mr. Incredible cracked Syndrome's computer password just by guessing it. But didn't.
Yeah.
But no, there was that villain, or not villain, I'm sorry, one of the previous heroes who died on the island.
Gazer.
Gazer Beam. Dude, what a cool name.
Yeah.
He had like carved it into the stalactites or whatever on the cave, right?
You're right. That's a good criticism. Also, like the I feel like the movie tends to drag when you're in like looking at the rocket, waiting for it to launch and everything.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like when Mrs. Incredible is kind of poking around the base.
Yeah, I love that scene, but it goes on a little too long.
Yeah.
Okay. A great episode, great debates and arguments, everybody.
Yay!
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe on iTunes and leave us a rating there. It would really help out the show. And we will see you in 2 weeks. It is almost Star Wars time. Woo!
Woohoo!
So we'll be back for some Star Wars episodes. I'm pretty sure we'll do 2 of them, but don't quote me on that. But thanks for tuning in. We will see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
So long.
All right, save those recordings, people.
Can we stop recording now?
Yep.
Yep.
Just do your name, episode, EP24, if you would like.
Okie doke. David, can we just send it on to you?
Yeah, you can. I think if you email it from your phone, it like attaches it using iCloud or something. I don't know. There's like
Mail drop.
Joe. Yeah, mail drop. Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, Jared, I was not feeling the stats before anything about the movies, but
I just don't get
knew
what those stats were.
Yeah, you mentioned
like
Bayesian stuff, dude. Like, what is that?
It's straight from Rotten Tomatoes website.
Yeah, I think it made sense.
It's yeah.
They were just taking the average rating times like however many people.
No, we don't know what the formula is, but it is weighted, and you should take the weighted score over cherry picking the critic score or the user score or the viewer score. Problem was you didn't explain why a well-liked movie makes it the best movie, I thought.
David, what's your email again?
It's David K. Rolfing, ROHLFING @gmail.
ROH.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
ROHLF.
Yep. @gmail.com. Cool.
I still stand by the fact that I think Tim and my movies were the better superhero movies, while the other two may have been the better movies.
Yeah, here's the thing, dude. Like, David, now that the debate's open, I would actually agree with you probably on Spider-Man 2. Like, it's just phenomenal. It's so freaking good.
I gotta watch that movie again.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I will admit is I think as I get older, I realize Kirsten Dunst's acting.
Yeah.
I feel like, is it her acting or is it the writing? Because to be fair, I feel like her writing is kind of difficult to work with.
I think it's her acting.
The fucking hunk she's into, hate him. Like, she needs to ditch him. Yeah. She does. But
well, she does. What? You're leaving?
That was the weakest part of the movie. Because, like, one thing, David, I almost critiqued you on. It sounded like you were arguing for.
Love you, miss you.
Wait, what? You have to go?
I gotta hang up.
Okay, cool. All right. Love you, Jacob. Bye.
And if y'all haven't seen Thor, David, Jared, or Joe, hit me up. Let's see it.
You should go see it. Oh, Jacob, I gotta tell you, there is a Beta Ray Bill Easter egg.
Oh, sick.
Is it still in theaters?
Yes, I saw it.
Do they have the scuttlebutt?
No, it's just a bust of his head.
That's the
but
name
you have
of
to like be paying attention for it, otherwise you totally miss it.
That's the name of his ship that he's flying around the universe in is called the Scuttlebutt.
It's pretty sweet.
The name is
I-
called the Scuttlebutt. Yeah.
Kyle
really like
Sardi said hi in the live chat, by the way.
Oh hell yeah!
Big D,
Hey,
how
David,
do I
I sent
export it
you
from
my thing
GarageBand?
via email.
All right,
Can you
bye.
check for
Jared,
it?
what?
Bye.
Bye, Jake.
How do I export it from GarageBand?
You click file or share, export, or something like that. Thanks for watching,
David, did you get my
Kyle. I didn't know you were a fan. I got Joe's. I haven't gotten yours yet, Tim.
Okay. I tried emailing it
If
to
it
you,
do-
so let me know.
If it doesn't work, you can upload to Google Drive and share it to me like that. Sometimes that's
For
easier.
sure. I might have to do that.
All right, Big D, I'm coming your way with a screen share.
Kyle said, "Love the podcast." Oh, so nice.
Hey, I like this Kyle guy.
Thanks, gal.
Kyle, write us a rating or review on iTunes.
Big D, you see my screen?
We love Guile.
Oh, I'll click on it. Yeah.
What should I do here?
Share media browser. He said hi, Joe.
Hi, Kyle. Where's I'm
Did
trying to
anything happen, Jared?
find the live
It's
stream.
loading.
Is it on your?
I
Where's the live-
texted it to the I texted it to the Hostel Bros.
Oh, okay, yep, I got it.
Jared, did anything happen? I can't see.
It's just loading. The little rainbow wheel is spinning.
Okay.
Oh, Rainbow
All
Wheel
right.
of Death.
I'm gonna end the live broadcast. Thanks for watching, Kyle and Kevin, if you're still on there. Bye.
Bye, Kyle.
Peace.